Hi everyone, welcome to my channel if you're new here, welcome back to my channel if you're a returning viewer or subscriber. So happy to have you here. In today's video I'm going to be doing two videos in one actually. So first of all I'm going to be recommending you some summer reads, some books to read this summer because summer is fast approaching us. Best season in the world, it's the season of my soul for real. The second part of this video is going to be my personal summer TBR. I just realised I forgot my rings, 1 second. Much better. I'm honestly not myself without my rings. So the books that are on my TBR that I'm going to be talking about are not necessarily books I'm just in the mood for right now. It's literally just books that remind me of summer or are literally set in the summertime or set in a location that makes me think of summer. I hope you enjoy it as we go along and get some book recommendations out of either the ones I personally recommend to you or the ones that I want to read. You might have never heard of them before and you might want to put them on your own TBRs. Let's get into the video. So the first book I have to mention is one that I've literally just finished. It's a bit of a spoiler for my wrap up this month, but not really because I did do an entire video that was kind of focused on this book. I'll have it linked down below because I don't want to spoil it in the cards. And that is You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. Otherwise known as People We Meet on Vacation because the US title is different than the UK one, but they're the same book obviously. So this book follows Poppy and Alex, friends to lovers. They're not second chance, but like second chance on their friendship. So Poppy and Alex have been friends for 12 years, but 2 years ago something happened in their friendship which caused them to like drift apart or just to stop speaking to each other altogether. But in the present timeline, Poppy reaches out to Alex, asks him to go on one last holiday with her. So in the previous 10 summers, they've gone on holiday together every single summer and it's like the core part of their friendship. That's what they love doing together and that's kind of the main bit of time that they can spend with each other. So this book could not be more perfect for summer because it's literally set across like 12 different summers. So they're doing lots of traveling and also in the present summer they're in California and there's lots to do with like the warm weather and the broken air conditioning, pool and things like that. It's literally the most perfect summer read. If you want a romance, if you want kind of like a beach read but something with a little bit of substance, then I would really recommend You and Me on Vacation. Another kind of romance book but in a bit of a different way, and that is Call Me By Your Name by André aciman. So this is the book that obviously got adapted into the film, as you can see from this cover, because it's the movie cover. The film is absolutely beautiful. It's the most perfect summer vibes, Italy in the 1980s. So in this book, we're following Elio and Oliver. Oliver is Elio's father's guest, so he comes to stay with Elio's family. Over the course of his time there, this kind of like very intensive bond forms between Ellie and Oliver. It's set in an Italian summer. It just captures that atmosphere so perfectly. It's beautiful, beautiful story. It's quite sad, so maybe not a beach read, but if you want to kind of get lost somewhere for the summer with some beautiful writing, this could be the book for you. Hugely popular book. You've probably seen it a million times on lists like this, but I have to mention it, and that's Malibu Rising by Jenkins. This is another perfect summer book. It's set in Malibu, obviously, as you can see from the title. It's right on the ocean. We're following a family of 4 kids, also has a dual timeline. Half the time is set the 4 kids' parents meeting and falling in love, then half of it is set in the present timeline. And the present timeline is actually only across 1 day, and you feel kind of the tension rise, and that's kind of at odds with this kind of lazy backdrop of Malibu. All 4 of the kids are surfers. It's just amazing beach read, again with some substance, and really beautiful story in terms of exploring family dynamics, in particular like bonds between siblings and things like that. It's beautiful. It is quite sad, but again, beautiful book and one of my all-time favorites. Next, another all-time favorite, one that I've read recently and I gave it 5 stars. I just simply adored it. Simply, that's kind of funny. This is Simple Passion by Annie Ernaux. Ernaux won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2022. Her books are very current, so this is kind of like a fun one to pick up, particularly as it's so short, but I think this is set across a period longer than the summertime, but it just made me think of summer so much. I wonder if it's because it's set in Paris, kind of the suburbs of Paris, and I was just about in that area last August. Such a vivid atmosphere of cities like suburban summer. This book is an autobiographical piece of work, follows an affair that Ernaux had when she was younger and she's kind of looking back on it. A really quick little read, but so impactful and profound and stunning. If you just want something that's really going to wow you and a quick little read, someone to maybe like catch up on your Goodreads reading challenge, this could be the one for you. Next book, a book that I haven't actually mentioned in a long time on my channel. This book I read a few years ago, I think like 2017 or like 2018 or something like that, but I read it and I loved it, and I did read it across the summer, and it's set in the summertime, so just another book to recommend to you. That is The Muse by Jessie Burton. So Jessie Burton is known for The Miniaturist. I think it got adapted into a TV series or something like that. I haven't actually read that book, but this book was amazing. I don't hear anyone talk about it, and I wonder if it's because The Miniaturist kind of like overshadows it a little bit. So this is another dual timeline book. I'm sorry if you don't like that. For some reason there's a bit of a theme going on here. So the present timeline is in the 1960s and we're following a girl called Adele Bastien. It's 1967. It's set on a hot July day, and the present timeline kind of links in with the past timeline, which is the 1930s, 1936 to be specific, and it's set in Spain. If you're familiar with the history, then you already know that's the start of the Spanish Civil War. The Spanish setting is this beautiful villa with these very wealthy people, and you kind of see the change from this very idyllic, beautiful spot in the heat to this absolute like monstrosity of the war. You see that change happen, as well as this mystery kind of plot line that you're kind of investigating in the present time, but you're also flashing back into the past to like further explore it. This is a fantastic book. This would be my kind of like historical fiction rec for the summertime. It was kind of one that was sold like in supermarkets when it came out, but I did really love it. Next up, we have another book that is not necessarily about summer, but first of all, I did read it in the summertime, so naturally makes me think of that time, and second of all, this kind of set across a long period of time, and one of the scenes is during the summertime when the characters go on holiday, and that was by far my favorite scene in the entire book. And this book is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. This is Sally Rooney's first novel. I've only read 2 of her books, and this is my least favorite. I go 3.5 stars, but the scene that's set in the summertime is just honestly worth reading this entire book for, because it is so beautiful. And it's just one reason why the TV show sucked, because they changed locations for that and they just didn't get the vibes. There's many other reasons to skip the TV show, so I really wouldn't bother with that. So in this book, we're following Frances and we're following Bobby. They are 2 best friends living in Dublin. They are actually ex-girlfriends. They used to date, but they're now like come to this kind of mutual standing where they're just gonna stay besties. They become friends with this couple called Melissa and Nick, and they get kind of like romantically involved, weave their way into the marriage of these 2 people. Maybe it's more Nick who weaves his way into their friendship. In typical kind of Sally Rooney style, it is very kind of like emotionally complex. I was gonna say it might be a bit much to read over summertime. If you do have some time off during the summer, then this could be a perfect book to read. Almost did drop the pile on my lap. Overall, I think it's a really good book, and like I said, just get to that summer scene. I think it's set in France and it's just beautiful, worth reading for. Different sort of vibe, but I tend to always recommend a poetry book in these videos, my like recommendation videos, so I thought that this could be a fun one for you to read. And also, if I think of all the poetry books that I own, this serves the most summer vibes, and that is Violet Bent Backwards Over the Grass by Lana Del Rey. People either like immediately buy this book and they just don't even care whether it's any good or not, because they're just like, Lana Del Rey, like, I worship you, you are the superior being, or they're like, Lana Del Rey, ew, get it away, it's probably trash. Aside from like this whole thing, Lana is a beautiful lyricist, and that really translates into her poetry. But there are much more kind of nuanced themes in the poetry book as opposed to her songs. Aside from that, this is just like a beautiful book to own. It is all made up of photographs of either typewritten paper that she has written the poems on, or like beautiful scenes from around California. California is naturally pretty much always hot, so you do definitely get kind of the summer vibes through that. But aside from that, the themes of this, gardens or the ocean or different things like that, and I think it really just lends itself to the summer season. If you can access it, I would really recommend the audiobook. I believe you can get individual poems from this on YouTube and Spotify, but you can also find the audiobook on like any of the like Audible script kind of things, or through what is it, Libby, the app that like lets you access audiobooks from your library. I actually read it through audiobook before I picked up the physical book. It's beautiful because it's read aloud by Lana herself, and it has tons of sound effects, the ocean and traffic and bird song and things like that, which is just climbs the whole atmosphere. 2 more books to mention for recommendations, first of which is a classic, or a modern classic I should say. Some days my hair is just completely out of control, and I think we're having one of them. Tender as the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I've read many of Fitzgerald's books. I think I've read almost all of them at this point, but this one is one of my favorites. So this book follows Dick and Nicole Diver, and they are a couple who go on holiday on the French Riviera. Set in a holiday destination, it's just the place to be. They're staying in this hugely glamorous hotel. It's in the 1930s, all around immaculate vibes. Dick is actually Nicole's psychiatrist, and so she's his patient. They slowly start to kind of mentally deteriorate. Dick because he is an alcoholic, and Nicole partly because of the way that Dick is treating her. You do feel kind of desperately sorry for Nicole, especially as Dick like has an affair within this book. This is actually a semi-autobiographical novel because it's based on the relationship between F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife Zelda. So the setting is kind of at odds with the kind of plot of the story. A very interesting novel. It's about 300 pages and it's a modern classic, so that should be much easier to read than a classic, and my nails match it, so perfection. And then the final book I have to recommend for you, it's upside down, that is The Dry by Jane Harper. So this is another book that I don't mention a lot on my channel, but I really did enjoy at the time when I did read it. I think I read it in 2019 perhaps. I think it was around then. This book is set in Australia during a drought. The atmosphere of the drought is just so, like, it makes you want a glass of water, honestly. It's just so well written. So we're set in a small town. We're following investigator Aaron Falk as he returns to the hometown where he grew up to attend the funeral of a childhood friend. While he's there, discovers all these like kind of secrets that come out. But there's a problem with his relationship to the town because the townspeople don't like him for something that they think he was a part of when he was growing up there. This tension that already exists just rises and rises and rises. And it gets worse because people are so affected, both like financially and just like mentally, from the heat. I've never seen a book that captures, I was gonna say dry, but like it is that dry heat. It just sits there and you just have to live through it. This book is the first in a kind of series of interconnected standalones, but this is my favorite of the ones that I've read. But if you did enjoy this, and you could like bash them all out throughout the summertime. And there's also a film that I haven't seen yet, but I've heard very good things about, so you can always read the book and then watch the film and do that whole thing. So there you have it. Those are my summer book recs for you. Now we're going to get into the books that I hope to get to this summertime, or just books on my physical TBR that remind me of the summertime. Some of these I mentioned in my TBR that I filmed last summer, so summer 2022. Ow, just hit my funny bone. I didn't end up getting to them, so I'm gonna probably brush over those a little bit quicker than others, just so I don't bore you, but I will still be telling you what they're about. So the first book I have to mention is probably the one that's the least directly summary, and that is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Tessa Moshfegh. This book follows, what is her name? I think she's unnamed actually. Very kind of young, rich lady, girl, living on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. She seems to have it all, but she's also suffering with depression. Decides that in order to kind of make herself feel better and cure all her problems, she's going to find a doctor that prescribes her a bunch of drugs so that she can sleep her way through this year. I think you follow her just a lot as she does that, and I think it will be an interesting book. It might be a little bit heavy, which is why I've been putting it off for so long, but I am intrigued by it. And I think just like the first couple of lines that I have read reminded me of summertime, like summer in New York, city summer vibes. A book that I've never actually heard of before. My friend recommended it for me. It's actually her copy, and that is The Despairing Act by Catherine Steadman. It's a thriller though, that's all I know about it. British actor Mia Elliott is in LA for pilot season. This is her big chance to make it in Hollywood, and she is ready to do whatever it takes. At an audition, she meets Emily, and what starts as a favour takes a dark turn when Emily goes missing and Mia is the last person to see her. Then a woman turns up claiming to be Emily, but she's nothing like Mia remembers. Why would someone pretend to be Emily? Starting to question her own sanity, Mia goes on a desperate and dangerous search for answers, knowing something is very, very wrong. Interesting. So we've got like the whole Hollywood vibe and this strange mystery. Oh my goodness, I love the tagline. She is missing, but did she ever really exist? Intriguing. I do want to get to that simply so I can actually give it back to my friend, because she's getting annoyed that I still have it. A book that kind of links in with one that I've just recommended to you guys and loved, Getting Lost by Annie Ernaux. So this is also another Ernaux, obviously, which is the same as Simple Passion, except Simple Passion is this kind of like account of an affair, but this is the actual diaries that document that affair. So these books are very linked, and I wanted this to be my second Ernaux because I feel like this would make most sense followed like directly after that one. So this is one I definitely need to get to. I'm hoping it will again give the summer vibes, even though it's not necessarily set in summertime. Should be a good one, seeing as I enjoyed the first one so much. A book I mentioned in my last summer TBR video, Happy Hour by Marlowe, Granados. So this book follows two girls living it up in New York City in the summertime, just capture kind of city summer vibes. It sounds very good. It sounds like one of those ones that's kind of like lit fic, less plot, more vibes, but or the vibes are the plot. I'm excited for it. If you want to hear more about it, I can always link down below last year's summer TBR, because you might get some more book recs on that as well. We've got to have a straight up romance summer book rec, or summer book on our TBR. This year's book that I hope to get to that is purely just like a beach read, ideal for this season. It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This book follows Piper. Fashionable, influential, her reputation as a wild child means that paparazzi are constantly on her heels. Her father is like sick to death of her just wasting her allowance, and he sends her away to a little fishing town to kind of get her life sorted. While she's there, she meets this guy called Brendan, and he's like a totally different person, but they do manage to fall in love, and we follow that whole, I think it's about like hate to love probably, and she kind of decides where her heart lies, whether it's in LA with her glamorous lifestyle, or whether it's in this little kind of small town fishing village with Brendan. Another summer book, A Theatre for Dreamers by Polly Sampson. I want to do a vlog on this book when I read it, because I mentioned it in my 5-star predictions video. The vibe sounds so good. It's set in Hydra, which is a Greek island in the 1960s, and it's full of poets, painters, musicians, writers and artists living tangled lives in an island paradise. Absolute perfection. I'm so excited for this. I said in the video where I mentioned this, it's either going to hit so hard or it's going to be like the most mid flop I've ever read. Hopefully it hits hard. My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. This book is one that my mum has read and loved. Many people I follow on books have read and loved, and I think that I'm hopefully going to read it and love it. Set in Naples. I don't know why it gives me summer vibes. Maybe it's just because it's Italy, and I'm an annoying English person who was headed to mainland Europe for many a holiday. One of 4, so it could be a fun one to kind of binge over the summertime. Yes, I have high hopes for this one. Okay, a book that is inarguably about summer, and that is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. Never pronounced that name. It's literally got summer in the title. It just looks like a fun beachy read, but also is quite heavy because it is following a girl who's grieving the death of her mother, and it has a little bit of magical realism mixed in there. So we're finding Katie. I believe is she like originally from Italy? I'm not sure. Her mum and her just always wanted to take a trip to Italy, so when her mother dies, she decides to go to Italy on her own to kind of like experience that for the both of them. But when she's over there, her mother appears for real in the flesh, is what the quote is, and she is very healthy, suntan, 30 years old. It's not kind of explained. She must reconcile the mother she has loved with the woman she is meeting for the very first time. It's a transcendent novel about how we move on after great loss and how the people we love never truly leave us. Chills. It sounds beautiful. And lastly, another book that I've mentioned like a billion times on TBRs, but it's gonna happen this summer. Like this is my main goal for this summer, is to read books that feel just so summery. I can't read them any other time of year, and I've said I'm gonna read them for forever, and I just haven't. And this is a classic example of that. Frenchman's Creek by Daphne du Maurier. So we're following Lady Donna St. Column. She seems to revel in scandal. She's involved in every intrigue in the Restoration Court, but secretly the shallowness of court life disgusts her, and in her heart she longs for freedom and honest love. She retreats to her husband's Cornish estate, where she seeks peace and solitude away from London. The estate is being used as the base for a French pirate and outlaw hunted all over Cornwall. Like, the vibes are immaculate. It's probably not even set in the summertime, but like pirates make me think of like Pirates of the Caribbean, summery, hot vibes. Instead of feeling fear, Donna's thirst for adventure has never been more aroused. She finds a sensitive man who would, like her, gamble his life for a moment's joy. Together they embark on a quest rife with danger and glory, one which will follow Donna to make the ultimate choice. Will she sacrifice her lover to sudden death, or risk her own life to save him? I'm truly like, this is a 5-star prediction as well. Like I'm gonna love this. Fingers crossed. So there you have it, everybody. Those are the many book recs I have for you and the many books that I'm kind of recommending to myself to pick up this season. Like, please do so, that would be great. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up so I can tell. Comment down below, let me know what books you're hoping to read this summer. I would love to know so I can get some book recs from you. And yeah, without further ado, it's been a long video, so I'm going to leave you be, and I'll see you next week for another one. Bye. I think I've just realised that I gave you 9 book recommendations and I have put 9 books on my TBR. It's not just my perfect coincidence.